The group voted, and we think she can do better, my best friend said. So I left the group chat and bought a sailing boat. Now she's alone, and they pretend she never existed. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. There's a certain kind of friend group that starts out feeling like a family and ends up feeling like a board of directors for your life. Ours was like that. 8 of us, all met in college. A messy, inseparable mix of people who partied together, cried together, moved apartments together, and thought we'd somehow hacked adulthood just by staying close. And for years, we really were close. There was Eli, my best friend since freshman year, the charming, slightly manipulative one who could talk his way into or out of anything. Then there was Hannah, my girlfriend of almost 3 years, who everyone said balanced me out. She was extroverted, ambitious, the kind of person who made vision boards for her birthday wishes. I was the calm one, the organizer, the guy who made the plans, booked the cabins, paid for the first round, and checked in when someone disappeared for too long. That group meant everything to me. I don't think I ever admitted how much. I built my whole social world around them, not out of insecurity, but because I genuinely believed in the idea of chosen family. We had traditions, Tuesday dinners at my place, where everyone brought one cheap ingredient and we turned it into something edible. Summer trips to the lake, where I was always the one driving because I was the only one who didn't drink. Game nights, where Eli cheated at trivia and Hannah would end up lecturing everyone about how to manifest better goals. If you looked at us from the outside, you'd think we were a sitcom friend group that made it past college. But I didn't realize how quietly things had started shifting. It began with subtle comments. Eli once joked that I was the dad of the group, responsible, predictable, steady, and everyone laughed. Then it became, "You're too comfortable, man," or "You're kind of coasting." At first, I brushed it off. Everyone goes through phases. I'd been working a stable IT job for 3 years, saving up for a down payment. Not glamorous, but it gave me peace. I thought that counted for something. But to them, especially Hannah, peace started to look like stagnation. She started reading self-help books with pastel covers, talking about energy and vibrations and levels of growth. It sounded harmless at first, but then the language crept into how she talked about us. "You're so content all the time," she'd say, half smiling. "It's like you're afraid to want more." I didn't get it. More of what? We had stability. We had plans. I thought we had love. But somewhere along the line, content became her synonym for boring. Around the same time, Eli started spending more time with her. Not in a romantic way, at least not that I could tell, but in that weird, conspiratorial way where 2 people convince each other they've figured life out while everyone else is just behind. He'd start sentences with, "Hannah and I were talking about you," and end them with unsolicited advice about how I should push myself more, how I should rebrand. It was subtle, but the balance was shifting. I could feel it every time we hung out. My opinions got dismissed faster. My ideas were safe. My jokes dated. I was becoming the stable background character in a group I used to lead. And I didn't even realize how deep that shift had gone until one Friday night, when Eli asked if I could come over early before everyone else arrived. He said he wanted to talk. He sounded serious. I remember thinking maybe he needed advice, or maybe something was wrong with work. I had no idea what was about to happen. I couldn't have known that a few hours later, my best friend would look me in the eye and tell me, with complete calm, that the group had voted on my relationship. When Eli texted, "Can you come a bit earlier tonight? Just want to talk before everyone gets here." I didn't think much of it. He'd done that before, to vent about his boss, or ask me to help fix his laptop, or to talk through another impulsive decision he'd made with his latest girlfriend. So I showed up 15 minutes early, carrying 2 six-packs in the sense that I was doing him a favor. When I got to his apartment, the lights were already dimmed, and there were too many shoes by the door for it to be just him. Hannah was there. So were Laura, Ben, and Maya, half the group, already sitting on the couch like they'd been waiting for me. That's when my stomach dropped. Something about the way they looked at me, polite, rehearsed, nervous, told me this wasn't an accident. "Hey," I said slowly, setting the beers down on the counter. "What's going on?" Eli stood up, clearing his throat like a manager about to start a quarterly review. "Man, sit down for a second," he said. "No, I'm good. What's happening?" He looked at Hannah, then back at me. This is gonna sound weird, but the group's been talking. About you and Hannah. About where things are going. I blinked. The group? Yeah, Hannah said softly. She wasn't meeting my eyes. It's not like that. We've just all noticed things, and it's hard to ignore. Eli jumped back in. Basically, we care about you both, and it's clear you're kind of on different paths right now. You've been stuck in the same routine for, what, 3 years? Job, same apartment, same schedule. And Hannah's trying to grow, you know? She's doing new things. She's evolving. I stared at him, trying to process the audacity of that word. Evolving? Yeah, he said earnestly, like he was explaining a TED Talk. She's exploring who she wants to be. And you, he gestured vaguely. You're still in your comfort zone. I felt my pulse in my jaw. So what are you saying, Eli? He glanced at Hannah again. She finally spoke. We talked about it, and the group thinks maybe I can do better. The room went quiet. Even Eli looked like he didn't expect her to say it that bluntly. My mind blanked. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense together. The group thinks. I repeated. Yeah, she said, voice shaking slightly but holding steady. It's not personal. We just don't feel aligned anymore. You don't really fit the energy everyone's trying to move toward. We all want more for you, but maybe that means you and I shouldn't keep pretending this is working. There it was, we all want more for you. That soft, patronizing poison disguised as concern. I looked around the room, at the people I'd considered friends. Ben was staring at the floor. Maya looked like she wanted to disappear. But no one, not one person, spoke up. Eli crossed his arms like the verdict had been delivered. It's not an attack, man. It's just where everyone's at. We love you, but it feels like you're not keeping up. It was so absurd I almost laughed. They'd held a meeting. They'd discussed my worth. They'd decided my girlfriend could do better, and she'd gone along with it. And the worst part? They said it like they were doing me a favor. Let me get this straight, I said quietly. You all got together and voted on my relationship. No one answered. I nodded slowly, trying to keep my voice from breaking. And Hannah, you thought this was reasonable? She exhaled shakily. It's not like that. It's just collective clarity. Everyone's been feeling it. That was it. No betrayal, no guilt, just self-help jargon twisted into cruelty. I stood up. My chair screeched across the floor. Well, I said, I guess the vote's unanimous now. Eli frowned. What does that mean? It means I'm out. I grabbed my jacket, walked to the door, and looked back at them. This self-declared council of higher beings. You guys always needed a project, I said. Congrats. You just lost the one who kept it together. Then I left. No yelling, no theatrics. Just silence and the sound of the door closing behind me. As I stepped out into the hallway, I heard Eli's voice faintly through the door. He'll thank us later. I didn't thank them, but someday they would thank me for leaving them to drown in their own growth. For the first time in years, my weekends were quiet. Not the comfortable kind of quiet, the kind that feels like something's missing, the kind that echoes. I stopped checking my phone after that night. The group chat, once the heartbeat of my week, went silent for me. I didn't leave right away. I just stopped replying. Stopped showing up. 2 days later, Eli removed me. That's when it hit me. They hadn't just voted me out of my relationship. They'd voted me out of my own life. The first few weeks were rough. You don't realize how much of your routine revolves around people until they vanish. No spontaneous invites, no noise, no shared meals. Just empty evenings and the kind of loneliness that doesn't announce itself. It seeps in through the walls. I'd catch myself cooking too much food, instinctively setting out 2 plates. Or driving past the lake where we used to camp and feeling that dull ache in my chest. But as the silence stretched, something strange happened. I started to feel relief. No group opinions. No subtle judgment. No one constantly measuring if I was evolving. Just me. And when you're alone long enough, you start asking different questions. Not why did they do that, but why was I okay with it for so long? I realized how much of myself I'd bent to fit their idea of who I should be. The easygoing one, the calm one, the guy who always fixed the mood when things got tense. The emotional janitor. And Hannah. God, I thought she loved me. But looking back, I think she loved the way I made her feel grounded, not me. She needed an audience for her growth. I just happened to be the opening act. So I started making changes, not to prove them wrong, but to finally live without their commentary. I canceled Netflix. Started waking up early. Began reading books that didn't have manifest or alignment in the title. One night, out of nowhere, I drove to the marina. It was something I hadn't done since I was a kid. My dad used to take me sailing when we could afford the fuel. I sat on the dock for hours, watching the boats sway in silence. There was something sacred about it, how they stayed anchored but ready to drift when the moment came. That's when the idea hit me. What if I just left? Not out of spite, not as revenge, just gone. So I did. Over the next few months, I sold half my stuff, put in my notice at work, liquidated some savings. People thought I'd lost my mind, but for the first time, I felt clarity. I bought a small, used sailboat, nothing fancy, but seaworthy. White hull, teak trim, a cabin just big enough for one person and a coffee pot. I named her Driftwood. There was something poetic about it, something discarded, reshaped by the sea, finding peace just by floating. The first night I slept on that boat, the air smelled like salt and diesel. The marina lights reflected off the water like a broken mirror. I sat on deck, wrapped in an old blanket, and realized I hadn't thought about them all day. Not Eli, not Hannah, not the group that decided who deserved who. Just me, the guy they called stagnant, floating quietly under a wide, forgiving sky. And as the tide carried the boat gently against its ropes, I felt a kind of calm I hadn't felt in years. Not peace that depended on anyone, just peace that came from finally being alone on purpose. But peace has a way of exposing truth, and in time, truth has a way of circling back. Because while I drifted further into my new life, the little ecosystem I'd left behind started to rot. And soon, the same people who voted me out would start turning on each other, and on her. It started with a text I almost didn't read. 3 months after I moved on to Driftwood, my old life reached out. Not through Hannah, not through Eli, but through Ben, one of the quieter ones in the group. The guy who never picked sides, who once told me, "Man, I just like hanging out with everyone." His message popped up late one evening while I was anchored offshore, cooking instant noodles over a camping stove. "Ben, hey, sorry for the random message. Just wanted to say, you were right to leave." No context, no follow-up, just that. I stared at it for a long time. Then curiosity got the better of me. "Me, what happened?" He didn't answer right away. When he did, the messages came in bursts. "Ben, the group's kind of falling apart. Everyone's fighting. Ben, Eli's being weird. Controlling. Ben, Hannah's not doing great." That last one made me pause. "Me, not doing great how?" He sent a sighing emoji. Then, "Ben, you should probably hear it from her. Just thought you should know." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because the truth was, I didn't want to hear it from her. Whatever had happened, it wasn't my problem anymore. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. Later that night, anchored under a sky full of stars, I opened Instagram for the first time in weeks. Their group had once been everywhere. Constant photos, inside jokes, hashtags about growth, captions like #vibes, #soulfamily. Now, silence. No more group dinners. No lakeside photos. The last picture Hannah had posted was from over a month ago, her at some retreat. The caption a recycled quote about trusting the universe. The comments were half-hearted. No likes from the old group. Then I checked Eli's page. He'd started tagging new people, co-workers, mostly, and posting captions that sounded suspiciously like hers used to. Not everyone's meant to evolve with you. Sometimes you outgrow people who helped you bloom. It was all so recycled it almost made me laugh. That's when I realized what had happened. The little social hierarchy they built, the enlightened circle they used to measure everyone's worth, had collapsed under its own fake depth. Without me planning things, keeping everyone together, smoothing over egos, they didn't have glue anymore. I didn't feel smug. I didn't even feel vindicated. Just free. But then, about a week later, Hannah reached out. It started with a missed call. Then another. Then a text. "Hannah, hey, I know you probably don't want to talk to me. I just need to say I'm sorry for how everything went down. Hannah, you didn't deserve that. I let people get in my head. Hannah, can we talk?" I didn't answer. 2 days later, another message. "Hannah, I can't believe how fake they all were. The group's basically dead. Eli turned out to be such a hypocrite." I scrolled back, reading that word, hypocrite. "Me? You mean the guy who voted on our relationship?" Hannah, I know how it sounds. I was stupid. I thought he cared about me. Me? And now? Hannah, now he's dating Laura. 2 weeks after he told me I needed to find myself. That one I laughed out loud at. A dry, quiet laugh that startled even me. Hannah, it's not funny. Me, you're right. It's poetic. She went quiet for a while. Then, Hannah, I miss you. I really do. I keep thinking about how peaceful you always were. How you just didn't need to prove anything. I read it twice. It wasn't remorse. It was nostalgia for the calm she threw away. I typed back one word. Me? Peaceful's expensive. She didn't get it, but I didn't expect her to. Because peace is expensive, it costs everything that once mattered. But once you've paid for it, no one can take it away. Over the next few weeks, I heard more through whispers. Maya had blocked everyone after some fight at a party. Ben moved away for work. The Soul family disbanded like smoke after a match. And Hannah? She tried to reconnect with herself, which apparently meant posting cryptic stories about healing alone in her apartment. They'd built their whole identity around judging who was growing and who wasn't. And in the end, they'd all outgrown each other. Meanwhile, I was learning to sail solo. Fixing things with my own hands. Watching sunsets that didn't need validation. But peace never stays undisturbed. One evening, as I was docked near a coastal town, Hannah showed up. I didn't even recognize her at first. She looked smaller, drained. Like the energy she used to weaponize had finally turned on her. She was standing on the dock, calling my name like she wasn't sure she wanted me to answer. That was the moment I realized the story wasn't over yet. When I finally disappeared from their orbit, something strange happened. Silence. No more tag memes. No more, bro, can you bring your speaker? Texts. No more, hey, can you drive us? Requests. It was like the static of 1,000 little obligations had been replaced by calm sea air. And as it turned out, silence was underrated. The first few weeks aboard the Edelweiss were awkward. I was clumsy, sunburned, and constantly dropping things overboard. But there was something profoundly liberating about not having to be anyone's glue anymore. No one depended on me to make plans. No one relied on me to smooth over arguments. I didn't realize how much of my energy had been spent holding other people together until I stopped. Meanwhile, I heard things through the grapevine. You'd be amazed how fast news travels even when you're not around to spread it. Apparently, the group tried to keep their old energy going. They organized a few hangouts without me. But when no one volunteered to plan, bring equipment, or even pick a time that worked for everyone, things fell apart fast. Then came the inevitable fractures. Liam and Amber started dating, which pissed off Ethan. Clara called the others toxic. Someone accused someone else of stealing a vape pen at a party. Within 2 months, the entire friend group had splintered into little, bitter factions. And as for Sophie, she became a ghost in her own circle. At first, she was their queen, the one they rallied around. But when people stopped showing up, she started realizing she didn't actually have any friends, just mutual acquaintances who liked the social scene I had built. Without the events, the trips, the shared jokes, there was nothing holding them together. I didn't message her. I didn't watch her stories. I didn't even unfollow. I just stopped caring. Still, one evening in late autumn, when I docked near the coast to refuel and pick up mail, I saw her name pop up in my inbox. Sophie, hey, I heard you're living on a boat now. I'd love to talk. Things didn't go like I thought they would. I stared at the message for a minute. Then I locked my phone, paid for my gas, and went back to the harbor. The sky was the color of melted copper, the sea calm and heavy with mist. I made some tea, leaned against the railing, and thought about how much time I'd wasted chasing people who thought they were the jury of my worth. When the sun finally dipped below the horizon, I smiled. Not bitterly, just quietly, like someone who finally stopped running a race they never signed up for. She wanted closure, validation, maybe even rescue. But I wasn't her philosopher anymore, not her emotional compass. I had given her that peace once. Now it belonged to me. So I poured another cup of tea, raised it to the dark horizon, and whispered, not out of anger, but clarity, you all voted. I just followed your decision and went somewhere better. Then I turned off my phone, let the night settle, and sailed toward the open sea. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.